Hey there, how's it going? It's me, Commandant Franz, and today I'd like to address the question, what is art? And this is, of course, one of the great unanswerable questions of, no, it's not. It's very answerable and, in my opinion, pretty easy to answer as well. So let's jump straight into it. My answer is that art is anything that is meant to be aesthetic. If it's meant to be visually aesthetic, it's normal art, and if it's meant to be aesthetic, pleasing to the ears, it's music. Now, I came to this conclusion because I look at everything that everybody considers art, and that's just what everything has in common. But why then do so many people say it's something else? Well, I'd like to use PJ Bears fan as an example here, partly because that's what we always do on this channel, and partly also though because he, I feel like, had pretty good arguments for the opposition, but not as good as mine, I don't think. So PJ Bears fan has the opinion, and I think this is a lot of people's opinion, that art is whatever anybody wants it to be. And so in response to that, I say, what if somebody thinks a paperclip is art? And his response to that was, well, that's stupid because nobody would call a paperclip art. The point is that it's anything that anybody would genuinely call art, and nobody would genuinely call a paperclip art. And maybe I'm going to horribly misrepresent his points here, and if I do that, maybe he'll elaborate in the comments or something what his actual points were. But anyway, he said that nobody would actually call a paperclip art genuinely. And so my response to that is, well, why wouldn't anybody call a paperclip art genuinely? If art can be anything, then you would think that people might call a paperclip art because a paperclip is a thing and anything can be art, but people don't because people have an idea in their heads of what art is, and a paperclip doesn't fit that idea because a paperclip isn't meant to be aesthetic. We don't have words that can mean anything because those words would be useless because you would say them and it wouldn't be describing anything and it wouldn't be giving an idea of anything, which is what words are meant to do. They're meant to put an idea in your head, and if the word can mean anything, it doesn't put an idea in your head. Whereas when you say art, you get the ideas of paintings in your head, of sculpture, of maybe music, of maybe dumb shit that people do that's called art, but either is very bad art or is just not art at all. And so that's what I'd like to talk about next. One classic example is that I guess at some point there was a guy who taped a banana to a wall and called that art, and it sold for a bunch of money. And this one, I suppose, maybe could be considered art a little bit because, you know, I guess you can like put a thing on a wall and it can be kind of artistic, but I think it's very bad art because it's not really trying to look good. It's not, you know, especially duct taping the banana. You know, if I was trying to artistically affix a banana to a wall, I'd maybe hang it, or I'm not sure what I would do, but I wouldn't duct tape it to the wall. Might not have been what this person did. I don't really know, but I think it was just duct taping a banana to a wall. Anyway, I think the message is something like, oh, anybody can interpret it any way that they want, and so it has lots of meaning. And I think this kind of fits in with like postmodernist thinking. I don't really know anything about postmodernism, but from what I do know, it seems like it's kind of like, oh, anybody can interpret anything anyway, and so anything has infinite meaning, unless you can only interpret it one way, in which case it has no meaning whatsoever. But I strongly disagree with that because if the meaning is that it has lots of meaning from other people assigning it meaning, it's just circular. It's meaningful because it has meaning, because it has meaning, because it has meaning. But you dig through all the meaning and there's no meaning at the bottom. And I don't think art has to have meaning to be good art, but it does help, And when the art piece is not visually pleasing at all, like a banana taped to a wall, it does need to have meaning to be good. So then you might say like, oh, well, you know, other people ascribe it meaning, so it could have meaning. But I don't think anybody ascribes deep meaning to the banana other than what I just described. Ooh, that's so deep because it has meaning, because it has meaning, because it has meaning, because it has meaning. And I just think that's silly. It needs to have meaning other than just having meaning. The meaning would have to be something like, let's see, what could a banana taped to a wall mean? Maybe the banana rots and it's like a memento mori or something. I don't know. So, yeah, I just think that's stupid. I think art needs to have meaning that isn't just that it has meaning. Either that or it just has to be aesthetic. But wait, I hear you saying, Franz, what? It has to be aesthetic or have meaning to be good art? I thought you said it just had to be aesthetic. I thought that was your definition. Well, not quite, but I think it has to have aesthetics, or at least the attempt at aesthetics, to be in the category of art. But then whether or not it's good is based both on aesthetics and meaning and maybe other things that I can't think of at the moment. But then, you know, like a book, I don't think a book is art, but a book definitely has meaning. But it's not trying to be aesthetic. Maybe there's art on the cover of the book and then that's art. But the book itself isn't art, I don't think, because it's not something that's trying to be aesthetic. It only has meaning, but that doesn't mean a book is bad. It just means it's not art, you know? I've heard of a guy who goes on walks and says that that's art. And what? Maybe if someone like watches you taking the walk, it's performance art, but it's very bad performance art. Okay, listen, if you have to tell somebody that something is art, it's not art. Like, if I tell you, I mean, okay, maybe you could make an exception for, like, if a child draws scribbles and, like, the child is trying to be artistic and it's just so bad that it's not recognizable as art and the child has to point out that it's art. But for the most part, if you have to say that it's art and not just some guy going on a walk, it's probably not art. Very quickly also, I would like to address my art teacher's definition of art. I'm not sure how common this definition is. Sounds like something that someone else might have, but I don't know. And she says that art is about paying attention to detail. So whenever you have to pay close attention to something, that thing becomes art. And my counterexample for this is oncoming traffic. Very clearly not art. And actually, you know, she was saying this and we were just painting and she was like, oh yeah, I think this is art. And I was like, well, yeah, what about oncoming traffic? And she's like, I don't know, I guess that could be art. No, it can't be art. Oncoming traffic cannot, potentially you could find some way to make it art actually. But mostly oncoming traffic is not art. And not only is it not art in that you can't really make it into art easily, it isn't even art by default, which by her definition it would be, because you always have to pay attention to oncoming traffic. And so that should automatically make it art, not even just it can be art. So that's just stupid. The next thing that I'd like to address, the next definition of art, I think is a very widespread one, and it is that art is about self-expression. So anything that's about self-expression is art. And I can see where this idea came from, because art definitely can be used to great extent for self-expression. But if I just paint a landscape and, you know, I'm not trying to express anything into it, I just think it's a pretty landscape, so I paint it, that's clearly art, but I wasn't expressing myself. And then the other, even bigger counterexample is just talking. Talking is the best way to express yourself. You just say words and people understand you. It's a great way to express yourself. 100 times better than art, 100 times better than anything else really, except maybe like writing, which is the same idea. And this is something that people forget about when they're talking about expressing yourself. It seems like they forget what expressing yourself actually means. It means making your ideas clear to other people. And the best way to do that is just saying the ideas, not painting something. Now, sometimes you can paint something and it will express something that you're wanting to express, and sometimes it will do so very well. But 99% of the time, self-expression is just saying things or writing things. In reply to the painting the landscape not being self-expression, some people will tell me that it is self-expression because you're viewing the landscape through the lens of the filter of your perception. And so always what you paint is going to be somehow influenced by your own perception, so it will be in a way you expressing yourself. But no, it's not. Hypothetically, someone can paint a perfectly photorealistic landscape, and if they can't, it's not because they were viewing it through a lens, it's because they don't have the dexterity to exactly copy each little detail. Not because oh, I'm viewing this and I had childhood trauma, so the painting's gonna look sad now. No. It's just because you can't, it's just accidental mistakes. It's not viewing it through a lens. And so the last thing I'd like to talk about is, why is there so much controversy over what art is? Why can't people just agree that it's just a thing, in my opinion, something that is meant to be aesthetic? And I think the reason is that, back in caveman times, there's like Neanderthals and they scratch parallel lines into a rock and just because they think it looks good, But over time, art evolves and it becomes a way for one to express oneself. And in becoming a way for someone to express themselves, people begin to think that that's what it's all about. And I think that's why there's a controversy over what art is. Goodbye.